Fight for NY features more hip-hop stars, more fighting styles, a much deeper story mode, and a big old fat M rating. That's right, this is a mature game filled with brutal action, bloody, just everything, and all sorts of foul language. But the good news is that all that mature content is backed up by some really excellent gameplay, some great presentational values, and what is a fantastic story mode all in all. Fight for NY uses the same Aki engine as the last game, but it tweaks the speed up a whole lot. It also puts more focus on unique fighting styles for each fighter. There's actually 5 different fighting styles in the game, including kickboxing, street fighting, martial arts, wrestling, and submissions. Each fighter in the game sort of has their own combination of these fighting styles that makes for unique movesets on each fighter. No two guys fight exactly the same, though some of them do tend to fight with similar styles. You can use the environments in the game to kind of like slam people's faces into things and just like crack weapons over their skulls, or even like just throw them into the crowd, and the crowd will like help you out by pushing the guy back or like get him into like a full Nelson so you can come in and just like beat the crap out of him. It's awesome. There's also a huge variety of fight types in the game, ranging from just simple brawls, in like underground basements and clubs and what have you, to like a subway match where your goal is to either KO the guy by just knocking him out regular or by throwing him in front of a subway train. Then there's also the demolition match, where in your fighting area you got a pair of SUVs and you can use them as like weapons. You can throw the guy in the windshield, you can take a car door and just slam his head into it. All kinds of crazy stuff you can do. Just like Def Jam Vendetta, Fight for New York features a whole cadre of hip-hop superstars. Snoop Dogg, Exhibit, WC, Mac 10, Slick Rick, Flava Flav, David Banner, Bone Crusher. Just the list goes on and on and on. Aside from them, there's also some generic characters, sort of like last year's game. There's far less of them than there were in Vendetta. And there's also some random celebrities that aren't necessarily part of the hip-hop culture. There's Dracula 2000 and Juice star Omar Epps, Heat and Con Air star Danny Trejo, and then there's former Black Flag lead singer and spoken word aficionado Henry Rollins. Why? Who knows? But the thing is, they're there. It's a weird, eclectic mix of fighters, and somehow, some way, it works really well. Even better than the fighters already in the game, though, are the ones you can create yourself. As a part of the story mode, there's this whole character creation system. But before you can actually do that, you got to get into the story mode. You got to start it out. In last year's game, you were sort of this random, generic, up-and-coming fighter, kind of fighting your way through New York's underground fighting scene, and on your way to taking down this dude D-Mob, who was like the kingpin, the king of New York, if you will. So you finally take him down at the end of that game, and this year's game picks up exactly where that one left off, with D-Mob getting arrested, hauled off to jail, what have you. So he's on his way to the jailhouse, and then all of a sudden this car just comes out of nowhere, blindsides the police car, and gives D-Mob a method of escape. As it turns out, that car was driven by you. The next scene features one of the cops who was involved in the accident trying to describe the perpetrator of all this. Through the magic of sketch artistry, you create your guy. You describe facial features, body build, even your voice type. Once that's done, you're kind of taken into this other cutscene where D-Mob introduces you to your posse, and then fast to say, because he kept me out of handcuffs, you're in the posse. That's it, and you're an up-and-coming fighter in the New York Underground. After a brief training sequence, you're taken to your crib, which is basically your base of operations throughout the story mode. The map gives you sort of an overview of where all the active fights are in the game. The shop district is basically where you'll get everything you want to customize your character. The clothing store by itself has a huge array of real name brand clothing brands you can use to kind of dress your guy up however you want. Jewelry is especially important, but all of these things factor in. Basically, the more money you spend, the more the crowd's going to love you. There's also this whole gym area where you can kind of go to upgrade your character. It's run by Henry Rollins. Makes sense, I suppose. And basically there you can just sort of like upgrade different stat points for like upper body strength, lower body strength, speed, toughness, and health. You can also purchase new blazing moves, your crazy over-the-top finishing maneuvers from there. There's a whole bunch of them to choose from, and they're all pretty awesome looking. The graphics in Fight for New York are pretty great. The character models especially just look really good. A lot of detail just kind of all throughout. The battle arenas also look really good. The crowd graphics aren't spectacular, but they interact nicely. There's some really nice lighting pretty much throughout most all the environments. The only real problems with the graphics are the camera and frame rate, which is actually pretty bad. The camera problem is pretty intermittent. Every once in a while, if you're getting too close down to the bottom of the screen, the wall that's there or the wall of people that's there just won't become fully transparent, so you'll kind of lose sight of what's going on. Their frame rate is just kind of bad throughout. There's like, basically, it doesn't even matter how many people are in the ring, it doesn't matter what environment you're in, it doesn't matter what version of the game it is. The frame rate just kind of chops up at random, and it just kind of looks bad when it happens. There's just no getting around it. It sucks that that happens, because otherwise this is a pretty superb looking game, but it does mar the experience a little bit. Last year featured some pretty great voice acting, some surprisingly great voice acting. This year it's even better. The dialogue is also pretty well written. It's a little on the profane side. Let's see, there's there's this, you, yeah, that's, you know, there's a lot of that. But at the same time, it all kind of fits within the context of the story, so it's not like people are just dropping mother every 6 seconds. When it comes right down to it, Def Jam Fight for New York is a pretty spectacular sequel overall. It almost reinvents the entire game of what Vendetta was last year, and it makes you forget about Vendetta in a lot of ways. The story mode's great, it's presentationally pretty impressive, and the gameplay is more than satisfying. So if you have interest in wrestling games, fighting games, or even just hip-hop, this is the game for you.